everyone, welcome to the Jada and Stitches show, and welcome to a quick recap video on how to make our easy autumn cowl using the very humble V-Stitch. We did our live crochet along on this project recently here on the channel. We'll link that below if you'd like to see the full stitch by stitch project. This is for children and adults alike. We are going to give you sizing for both and how to make it custom sized in today's video. And that's all you need to know. So let's grab our hooks, grab our yarn, we'll head on over to the craft table, and we will stitch up an easy autumn cowl together. In order to make a cowl for either a child or an adult, you want a size for medium weight yarn. You can use any fiber you like. This is a 100% acrylic yarn that I used, but a cotton, a wool, or blends of any of those, anything that feels nice against your chin, is just fine for this project. You want around 110 to 120 yards per child, maybe 200 yards for an adult, and that gives you the opportunity to be a little more flexible with sizing, and you should not need all 200 yards of it. You're going to want a pair of scissors, a yarn needle, a stitch marker can be handy. You might also find that a measuring tape is very useful for this project, and the hook I recommend is a 5.5 millimeter, also known as an I or a 9. And if you want a looser stitch, you want to go up a hook size. If you want a tighter stitch, you want to go down a hook size. And once you've got all that together, we can get started. We begin with a slip knot and a long foundation chain. Your foundation chain can be any multiple of 3, so long as once it's joined together into a large ring, it fits loosely over your head. We're making our cowl in the round, so there won't be a seam. There's no seam to join. What we want to do is crochet around and around and around. So in order to do that, we're going to create a nice big ring, any multiple of 3. 84 chains is good for an adult. That will be just over 22 inches in circumference. A little under that, maybe 78 stitches will be fine for a child, but you can make a custom number, anything you want, so long as it's a multiple of 3. Once you've chained 78 for a child, 84 for an adult, or a custom number that is any multiple of 3, try not to twist your foundation chain, and you want to join with a slip stitch to that first chain to make a large ring. Before you go any further, try it on over your head or the head you're making it for, if it's handy. It should fit loosely over your head or the head of the person you're giving it to, so it doesn't muss their hair when they try to put it on. If you don't have the head handy, before you join it into a circle, measure your foundation chain. Make sure that it is at least 2.5 to 5 centimeters or 1 to 2 inches longer than the head circumference measurement of the person you're making it for. So lay it down straight, don't stretch it, and measure it with your measuring tape. If you don't have the head handy, or you don't know the measurements of the person you want to make it for, or you're just trying to guesstimate some common measurements because you're making these for donation, we have a head sizing chart over on the tools page of our website, and we'll link that in the description box down below. You can certainly use that to help you figure out how big you should make your, or I should say how long you should make your foundation chain. So once we've got it established that it's long enough and we turn it into a ring and it fits loosely over our heads, we are going to start with the V-stitch pattern. The V-stitch we're using for this pattern is the double crochet, chain 1 double crochet V-stitch. Every row begins with a chain 4. That chain 4 counts as a double crochet chain 1. And into the same place that we joined, we are going to double crochet. So double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, all worked into the same stitch or chain, and every row begins with a chain 4 double crochet. That counts as the double crochet chain 1. Skip the next 2 chains, find the next one, and double crochet, chain 1, double crochet into it. That's your standard V-stitch. Double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. Skip the next 2 chains, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet into that same chain. You're going to skip 2 chains and V-stitch, or double crochet, chain 1, double crochet into the next chain all the way around. You should have exactly 28 V-stitches for an adult, 26 V-stitches for a child, or if you used a custom number in your foundation chain row, remembering that it's any multiple of 3, you take your final foundation chain number, divide it by 3, and that number is the number of motifs you should have at the end of the row and in every row of this pattern going forward. When you get back around to the beginning, you'll have 2 chains left. This little guy down here that our chain 4 comes out of is what we call the false stitch. So you don't count this little guy here. You're just looking at these 2 chains. Now if you're 1 over or 1 under, don't worry about it. What you want to do is count up your V-stitches. Make sure you have the correct number of V-stitches, 28 for an adult, 26 for a child, or that custom number if you used a custom foundation chain. That's the most important part. You're going to find the 3rd chain of the chain 4 that began the row. You're going to slip stitch to join, and that completes row 1. Every row ends the same way. You join with a slip stitch to that 3rd chain of the chain 4, then you slip stitch into the chain 1 space of that first V-stitch you created. Every row begins in the middle of the V-stitch. Every row begins with a chain 4 and a double crochet worked into that V-stitch middle of the stitch, so that all of our V-stitches sit on top of each other. Then you're looking for the next V-stitch and you double crochet, chain 1, and double crochet into the middle of that V-stitch. So all of our V-stitches are in a line, or in alignment. They sit on top of each other. They are not on a diagonal. So that's what we're looking for. All of our V-stitches sit directly on top of each other. You're just looking for the V-stitch. You're working double crochet, chain 1, double crochet into the middle of it. This is the stacked V-stitch pattern. You will have the same number of V-stitches in this row as you did in the previous row, and every row going forward will have the same number. When you get back around to the beginning, you're going to join with a slip stitch to that 3rd chain, slip stitch into the middle of your first V-stitch, and begin the next row. Something else you might want to consider when you're working in the round and you're using a simple, quick repeating stitch like this, it's sometimes very handy to mark that first chain 4 or the V-stitch of the row so that when you zip around and get back to it, you can easily see it. Sometimes when we work, our work pulls maybe one side or the other, and you might accidentally see it as the next V-stitch to work into, and you'll end up not joining your row. So just to think about putting a clip or a stitch marker on that first V-stitch so you know where the beginning of the row is when you get back around to it. You are going to repeat that V-stitch pattern for 16 to 18 rows for children, 20 rows for adults. Ultimately, you're going for measurements here and not so much a row count. So for adults, I recommend 30 centimeters or 12 inches in height. That's from the bottom all the way to the top of the cowl. For children, 10 to 11 inches or 22.5 to 25 centimeters in height is nice depth for a cowl for a child. But of course, if you want more squishability underneath your chin, you can add more rows. If you want less, because you want it to be a little on the cooler side, you can add fewer rows. The best thing to do is to keep trying it on and decide if you've reached the right row height or not. But a good rule of thumb is 16 to 18 rows for children, 20 rows for adults. Once you have decided that you've made enough, you're going to finish off your last row. You slip stitch to join with that 3rd chain that began the row, so the 3rd chain of the chain 4. You'll still have the same number of V-stitches all the way around, and you have an option. You can now add a row of single crochet all the way around the top and the bottom, and you would just single crochet in each stitch and space all the way around. So you'd be back to your original foundation chain row count. So for this particular scarf, it would be 84 single crochet all the way around. It's a single crochet in the top of every double crochet and in every chain 1 space. And you can mimic the same thing down here. Join your yarn with a single crochet in any space or the bottom of a V-stitch, and single crochet in every single foundation chain all the way around. That's only if you feel it needs it. If maybe you want to tighten up your foundation chain, or you just want sort of a matching edge on either side. If you've used a really pretty self-striping yarn like I did here, you probably won't feel like you need it. After you've joined the last row, you don't need to slip stitch into that chain 1 space. Just snip your yarn, fasten off, and then take a moment to weave in all your tails. And you can do that on the inside. I like to track down the edge of my most recent double crochet and then weave it in underneath the double crochet stitches and maybe use some of the loops of the stitches in that last row. I go all the way sort of under 3 or 4 different V-stitch motifs in one direction. Make sure that I haven't pulled anything out of alignment, and then I double back underneath some of those stitches and go back the other way. And if you're using a slippery yarn, I recommend that you weave your yarn tails in back and forth around 3 times. Cut longer tails if you feel you need to, and that way they won't come out. Nice and quick. And you can use any fiber you like, so pick one that feels nice and comfortable against your chin. And if you're unsure, then go for natural fibers, especially if you're giving it away as a gift or for donation. I recommend cotton, cotton wools, blends, maybe cotton acrylic blends, things like that. Something that you can toss into the washing machine too, never goes amiss. We hope you enjoyed this quick recap video today, and we will see you soon here on the Jada and Stitches Show. Until then, stay safe, stay crafty, and have a great week. Bye everyone!
Hi everybody, Mr. and Stitches here. Thank you for watching today. Here are some of our other videos you might be interested in. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe.